Welcome back to a new month, a new book, the start of The Fourth Wing
Yeah.
by Rebecca Yarros. Welcome back, everyone. This week, we are drinking coffee.
Yeah.
I made us some delicious coffee. I don't know what it is. I don't know what I did. But I think this coffee turned out really good.
Yeah, it is. It's just a latte, right? But
Yeah, it's like my version of a latte. Because usually a latte is like, it's with espresso, if I remember correctly. So I didn't quite make espresso. I just made coffee. And then coffee, well, no, it's our makeshift latte. It's just about 10 or 12 ounces of coffee, which I used Starbucks brown sugar cinnamon coffee. I don't know. Anyway, it's good. And some creamer, some frothed milk, and voila, we have coffee. But I guess before we begin, I just gotta know. What'd you think?
I'm liking it so far.
You liking it?
Yeah, I really like it. I'm kind of worried for the future, but I am worried. I mean, I am liking it.
You are liking it? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We have a lot to cover today. We have to talk about the little blurb before, but also there's so much, 10 chapters, but so much happened so far. But good things. So I'll just go ahead and get started and just read the blurb so far. So 20-year-old Violet Sorengale was supposed to enter the scribe quadrant, living a quiet life among books and history. Now the commanding general, also known as her tough-as Talon's mother, has ordered Violet to join the hundreds of candidates striving to become the elite of Navarre dragon riders. But when you're smaller than everyone else and your body is brittle, death is only a heartbeat away. Because dragons don't bond to fragile humans. They incinerate them. With fewer dragons willing to bond than cadets, most would kill Violet to better their chances of success. The rest would just kill her just for being her mother's daughter, like Satan Ryorson, the most powerful and ruthless wing leader in the Riders' Quadrant. She'll need every edge her wits can give her just to see the next sunrise. Yet with every day that passes, the war outside grows more deadly. The keenest protective wards are failing, and the death toll continues to rise. Even worse, Violet begins to suspect leadership is hiding a terrible secret. Friends, enemies, lovers, everyone at Basgiath War College has an agenda. Because once you enter, there are only two ways out. Graduate or die. And thus begins our journey into the Fourth Wing.
Yeah. Also, just a little disclaimer. If you hear a bell in the background, I noticed it in the last episode.
Oh.
I cannot edit that out. There's no way I can just get rid of that whatsoever. So just excuse that. That is just the cat.
And there she goes.
She's usually never awake for while we do this, and right now she's choosing to be, so...
I think she also agrees that this is a good book so far. I think we need to hear her thoughts. So, hand her the mic. Interesting thoughts. Thank you so much, Grace, for your input. Wow. Alrighty. Let's go ahead and start off with the recap. So I feel like this recap is just a little bit long, so I'm going to try to edit out as much as I can. But let's start with chapter 1. It's conscription day. Violet is being pushed by her mother to join the Riders rather than just become a scribe like her father was. Myra, Violet's sister, tries to convince their mom, which is a general, to not let her sister attempt to even join the Riders. Violet is small and not as strong as her sister Myra. However, we learn that she is fast and agile. While she can't really carry a sword because it's too heavy, she can carry daggers. Her mother is too stubborn, says nope, she has to go. So, after meeting with her mother, Violet and Myra start their journey to the parapet. As they walk up to the place, to where Violet has to sign up for the writer's quadrant, Myra gives her sister some advice. So she gives her a bunch, so I'm just going to highlight the most important ones. Don't make friendships, forge alliances, do not hook up with anyone in second or third year, stick to your class, find Dane Athos to join his squad, and lastly and finally, stay the hell away from Xaden Ryorson, which is the man who led the son of a man who led the rebellion. Myra tells Violet to survive the parapet, and then they separate. Violet walks up the stairs with two other people who start talking to her, Rhiannon and Dylan. As they make it up to the top, they have to pass the entrance to get to the parapet, and Dylan goes in first. There are 3 men at the entrances, and one captures Violet's attention. However, this guy is Xaden Ryorson, which Violet finds out because one of the guards called him by his last name, and Xaden finds out who Violet is thanks to Rhiannon's big mouth, and she asks, "Are you ready, Sorengale?" Xaden and Violet have a tense moment. We find out that Violet's mother captured his father and oversaw his execution, and Xaden's father killed Violet's brother. Violet asks Xaden if he's going to kill her, but just as she asks this, they hear a scream, and it's Dylan slipping off the parapet to his death. Xaden looks at her and says, "Why bother? The parapet will do that for him." And then we go into chapter 2. Now it's Violet's turn to cross the parapet. And as an obvious spoiler, she makes it across. But only because she starts to recite the history of Navarre, which is crazy. But she recites history because it helps her focus and maintain her balance on the parapet. And although she makes it across, she does slip and injure her knee and has a confrontation with the most annoying person so far, Jack Barlow, a psycho kid who has it out to kill Violet, essentially. And before he can even get into the parapet, essentially Violet gets one of her daggers and puts it up against his balls, and it's like, well, what's it gonna be? She lets him in, but that was a tense moment, and thus I think that's where his hatred even grew for her. So we get to chapter 3. Violet is in, and Dane finds her. Dane helps Violet get away from the crowd to bandage her knee in private, and then tells her that they have to get her to the scribe quadrant. Violet refuses and says she's already beat her odds getting across the parapet. She's going to see this through. Violet and Rhiannon are in Dane's squad, the second wing, until suddenly Naira switches Dane's squad with Aura Bainhaven's, just someone, moving Violet from the second wing to the fourth wing, which is where Xaden is at. As squads are solidified, dragons fly over and kill about 3 newbies and 1 dragon, which we later find out is Xaden's dragon. And I'm going to butcher it, so I'm just going to spell it out. Sgaeyl. It's a blue dagger tail dragon, but they're very...
Sgaeyl?
Sgaeyl?
Spell it out again.
Sgaeyl. Scale?
Y-A-Y-Y-L, you said? Not T-H? Y-L.
Sgaeyl.
Yeah, scale.
Scale? Okay.
Like rather than scale, I think it's like instead of a C, put a G. And it's the same thing. Scale. I think. Unless the S is silent and it's just Gale. But
well, Xaden's dragon, Scale. We'll say Scale for now until we figure out what that is. Looks at Violet, tilts its head, and then looks away, which could either be a sign of approval or boredom. You really don't know with these dragons. But it doesn't kill her. So that's good. Chapter 4. Dane reveals to Violet that they switched wings because Xaden has it out for Violet, as we all really pretty much knew, and pretty much advises her to keep a low profile. We then find out that Dane's signet, would you pronounce it as that? Signet or signe?
I would do signet.
Signet? Yeah. Dane's signet power, which is a power that is given to them by their dragons after they bond. His power is reading a person's most recent history. Memory. Yeah. I had it right here and I still said history. but his reading a person's most recent memory. As they finish this up, Xaden interrupts him and Dane tells Violet to just run. And now we're at chapter 5. We're in Battle Brief, a class that's taught every day and relies on the most current information. Here are the highlights from it. This is, I really enjoyed this part. So the class starts out with an attack that occurred in the eastern wing due to, I'm going to butcher this, Bravi? Gryphons, writers from Poromil. Professor Devera opens the class to questions with the information that they have, and Violet pretty much excels here, asking the right questions for the right reasons. So Gryphons are only strong up to a certain altitude. So they went there because they knew the wards would fail. And riders were already on their way because one of the dragons also knew that the wards would fail. Xaden comes in and adds to the whole conversation that they looted the village. So they're looking for something. It's not riches, and this village was not a gem mining district. So what do we have that they want so badly? And that's pretty much what we learned from that class. Following that chapter, or within that chapter, we also get the first combat training. Jack Barlow essentially snaps an opponent's neck. No surprise. And Rhiannon wins her fight. Up next is Violet, and she's put up against Imogen, which is a second year, if I remember correctly. But she's also a marked one, which is a rebellion relic due to their parents' crime. They fight until she has Violet trapped, and she tells her to yield, but Violet refuses. As the professor tells Imogen that she yields, Violet then hears her bones break. Chapter 6. Dane rushes Violet to the healers, where we meet Winifred and Nolan. Nolan? Yeah. Two people who cared for Violet and helped mend all of her broken bones in the past. Dane still wants Violet to go to the scribes, but she pushes against them and says she's staying with the riders. Violet asks Nolan to mend her arm just this once because she doesn't want to be seen as weak. She doesn't want to be an even bigger target. She's already a target, but she doesn't want to increase that odd. Once Violet is back at the barracks, she finds a letter from Myra, which also includes letters from her brother Brennan to Myra from when she first joined the Riders. In those letters, Violet finds out how she's going to survive these upcoming challenges. Chapter 7. Violet is out at night searching for poisonous items to use in her upcoming challenges. As she's grabbing some berries from a tree, Xaden and other marked ones appear below. Marked ones cannot be gathered in groups larger than 3. However, this meeting doesn't really seem like with malicious intent. They're just trying to help each other to survive until graduation. As they leave, Violet goes down the tree and Xaden grabs her. Apparently he knew that she was there all along because his signet is a shadow wielder. He commands shadows. Violet flings some daggers at Xaden to show him that she's not so weak, and Xaden tells her that she should really use that trick on Jack Barlow. Maybe then he'll back off a little. Then Xaden asks Violet if she's going to tell on him, and she says no. What they're doing is innocent. Why have them executed for that? And Xaden tells her that if she holds up to her bargain, he might just owe her a favor for that. Chapter 8. Challenges start. Violet wins the first 5 challenges due to her plan to poison her opponents in the morning. With her having breakfast duty, she's able to plant her poison in their breakfast and then have them be sick by the time their match begins. However, by the time her 6th match comes, her opponent is too sick to even make it to the match. But before the match gets called off, Xaden volunteers to fight her. And that's where we get to chapter 10, where pretty much Xaden just whoops her ass. That's pretty much what happens. But throughout the fight, he points out to Violet where she's leaving herself open and how easy it is to defeat her. So yeah, she does get injured. And because of this fight, Dane tries to push Violet to go to the scribes again. But this time she tells him that she'll think about it. It's gauntlet time. Gauntlet time, essentially this is an obstacle course that the cadets have to get through before graduation. However, for now, they're just practicing. And at this point, everyone in her squad has still made it out alive. So everyone is still there from the beginning days. And
It's
now
the only squad to have every single one of their starting members.
Pretty much people have died throughout like combats or XYZ, but this squad has pretty much stayed intact.
Like, what was it? I think it was like 15% to 20% would die at the parapet, right? And then only a fourth of the remaining ones would usually make it to graduation. No,
yeah. Even I think half.
No, I think a fourth.
A fourth? Okay.
Yeah,
it's the numbers are insane. So for now, they're just practicing at the gauntlet, and they have a rope they can grab onto if they fall. However, here's the catch. They have to grab it within pretty much about 30 seconds before they die and fall to their death. So everyone is nervous except Aurelie, who's excited about going through this obstacle course. As Violet is getting through the course, which, by the way, she gets through it doing the exact same thing she did at the parapet, she recites, or she pretty much is just studying, just saying history facts in her head because it helps her concentrate. And she and Aurelie finally get to the turning logs. And this is the part that Violet was essentially very nervous because it's just turning, and if you're on it for too long, you're essentially just going to fall onto the next and fall to your death.
Am I right in thinking that is like that thing in like American Ninja Warrior and stuff like that, where it's just a giant?
That's what
like, that's what it is, right?
That's what it seems like, except there's no water underneath.
No, yeah. But like, you have to get across it, but it's continuously rotating, right? Okay. That's what I pictured it as.
I also saw it that way too. Violet gets through it, and just as Aurelie is going through the course, a dragon flies above them. Aurelie loses focus and falls to her death. And in this gauntlet challenge, that's where a couple of her squad members die. And finally, they have their death toll. As Violet finishes burning Aurelie's items, which, by the way, they burn items of their, like, of people who pass away. Their ritual is to burn all of their items.
Well, they give them two options. Either...
Well, for her, yeah.
No, for anyone.
Oh, for anyone, okay.
For anyone who passes away in the school, I guess, or whatever it's called, the campus. The parents can go pick up the body, and then they'll do the burial, the burning or the burial, whatever they want to do, right? Well, they could bury them, but then they burn all their belongings, right?
Right.
Or option number 2 was the parents don't want to, who would want to go pick up their kid's body,
Yeah.
But so they give them second option. They don't have to do that. The school will bury them and burn their belongings for them.
Okay, yes,
correct. In this case, Aurelie's parents chose number 2, which I think is completely valid, because who would, at the same time, it's like you would want to go.
No, man, that's so
like you would want to do it yourself, right? But it's also like a parent should never have to do that.
Yeah.
And it's like, I get it, not wanting to see the body.
It's so brutal.
Yeah.
And so Violet takes it into her hands. She's like, you know what? I'll bury her. Like, I'll burn her items.
Mm-hmm.
And as she's finishing this up, and I believe she's going back to the barracks, if I remember correctly, she catches Zayden, Bodhi, and Garrick, which are all other marked ones, essentially.
Yeah, that's the little gang, right? And then Bodhi is Zayden's cousin.
Yes.
And Garrick is just another member there who's like one of the three amigos.
Yeah, the 3 amigos for now. They're walking back and they're talking, but Zayden, because he commands the shadows, he notices that Violet is nearby. He tells him that he'll catch up with them, and he goes over to Violet. Violet essentially is just venting to him. She's had a pretty long day, and she just tells him, she's like, at this point, if you want to kill me, just get over it. Like, just get over with it. I just want to get through this. I'm so fed up. And I think she's starting to lose a little bit of hope here. She messages like, you know what you guys don't have, or what everything's lacking? Hope.
Yeah.
But I feel like she's losing a little bit of it herself, because she couldn't really finish the gauntlet because there's a certain point when she has to get on top or climb the gauntlet.
She has to jump something. Yeah.
Yeah, but she's too small to do it.
Yeah.
And so Xaden essentially tells her, she's like, listen, you can give up and whatnot. However, there is more than just one way to get over that gauntlet.
Yeah, he says the right way isn't the only way. Mm-hmm. Basically telling her to just shut up, quit whining, use your resources, look around. Just because everyone's saying do it this way doesn't mean that's the only way.
Exactly. And that's how the last chapter of this week ends.
It actually just ends with what is it? It's 3 words, no? It's 2 words. Yeah, he goes, the right way isn't the only way. Figure it out. Turns and walks away. She says, fuck him.
Yeah. I'm really enjoying this book so much.
I am.
So the other night you were falling asleep, because you had to go to work the next day.
As I do, yes.
And I started to read. I was like, I'm just going to read 30 minutes. Those 30 minutes turned into an hour or so.
Yeah.
And I finished all 10 chapters. I was like, I need to get through the next thing. And then when I finally got to chapter 10, I was like, fuck.
Because that's how it ended.
I'm really enjoying this. Now, let's get one thing out the way. Because I know this is what's worrying you. The boys.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is a love triangle waiting to happen.
I know. Okay. I was going to say it. I think this is a love triangle. But here's the thing. Okay. So I think I know how these 2 characters are going to play out a little bit.
I think so too.
Dane. He is the protective one.
He's the childhood friend, right?
Yeah. He's a childhood friend. He's the protective one.
Haven't seen each other in years. This is the first time they see.
And they have history together. Some kind of history.
Haven't said yet.
Yeah. They haven't said quite yet.
But
they kind of tease it around. But he's a childhood friend. He's the one who's way overprotective about her. We know that there's some sort of feeling or cariness in there. But I don't know. I feel like he may be a love interest, but also maybe just kind of like a very overcaring friend, brother-ish per se.
No, I think there's definitely a love interest.
There very much could be. But he's a protective one. Now we have Xaden. He's the enemies to lovers for fucking sure. Yeah. I know that for a fact.
Yeah.
They're going to have some sort of chemistry because yes, he has a deep resentment towards her, but as Garrick said, and I don't know if maybe his bond with his dragon or Garrick has kind of put it in his head. It's like, she is not the one who killed your father. It is her mother. Mm-hmm. And if you're trying to punish her for the things that her parents did to your father, you're essentially doing what
her mother was doing.
Yeah, what her mother,
you're becoming, or even what you're hating.
What you don't want to do. It's essentially you're trying to punish someone for someone else's crimes. Yeah. And he's trying to make it seem like we're in this school, which, by the way, all of the kids who are the children of a parent who was part of the rebellion are the separatists. Yeah. Separatists.
Yeah.
They essentially got punished for their parents' crimes by being put into a school.
Yeah.
And so that's how Garrick is making it seem like you're just committing the same, or you're thinking the same thing.
But then I also wanted to make it known that this is where I was going, and I just completely forgot to finish it like this. This school, camp, whatever, is for, like you said, it's for 2 people. It's for the people who are getting punished for their parents' crimes, but it's also for those that want to become dragon riders.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
So it's either you're there because you want to become that, or you're put there because your parents committed, the rebellion, the separatist rebellion.
Exactly.
And you're being punished for their deeds while they got executed. The parents would get executed, and if they had kids, they would put them in this place.
Exactly.
Basically as a punishment, because it's like the blurb said, you either graduate or you die, right? So if you make it out, it's like, all right, cool. But the punishment was being through put through that, right?
Exactly. Like one of the first things you have to do is just cross the parapet, which sounds like it's. I was having a little bit of difficulty trying to kind of imagine it. Like I did in my head, and I'm not sure if this is how she described it, but it seemed like almost like a stone path that's a little bit unsteady, and there's so much wind around, which is why they have to essentially have balance, because you have the forces of the wind. Like the parapet itself is not dry, so you have to have really good balance and like composure as you're trying to get through this. So that's why so many people just die trying to get on it. And that's only the first thing.
I imagined it as a long, just narrow stone path that you have to get through while everyone's trying to get through as well. And then the wind conditions, the rain conditions make it slippery. It's it's kind of like the entrance path to the camp. Right? It's itself a test because it's so narrow. Like I don't think you can stand on it.
Well, let's see if you get through the parapet, because jeez.
I don't think it's like wide enough to where you can stand with both feet, right? Like you have to put one in front of the other because it's so narrow.
I think so, right? But then again, you also have Jack, who's also essentially pushing off people. Yeah,
but he might just be like walking fast and he's just shoving people out of the way.
I thought the parapet was a little bit like to where you could have your two legs. Like I said, it was a little bit difficult to imagine, but just know that
I think it's more narrow than a sidewalk for sure, though. Right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think so too. Okay, cool. I also think that. Okay, but they have to get through this. But going back to this love triangle, Satan, he is obviously the one who has it out for Violet. However, he's decided so far right now, he could just be, like Dane said, he could just be like a cat toying with their toy for now, or with their prey. But I think something is there, not like officially. I do think that I think he is curious about Violet, and I think maybe his dragon has some sort of inkling, because a bond between a writer and their dragon is something that is so strong, and they communicate with each other. Mind you, that very first day, Zayden's dragon looked at Violet and turned their head and then looked away. I feel like they know something about her.
Did he turn the head? Like, I think when they said turned the head, it was like just
like
turned around to look at her. But what was described that he did was like kind of like blinked, like shut his eye, and then opened up again and just looked away. So it was like kind of like a thinking,
like almost like a cat looking at you sometimes, when they blink.
And they just blink slowly and then look away. It was more like a you're all right, and looks away type of thing is what I imagined it as.
You think so?
Because I don't think it like tilted its head or anything.
I thought it said it tilted his head, but it could just be that it tilted his head to look at her.
That was so early in it.
Yeah, I know. I was like looking through it too.
But for those that are still trying to put it together, Zayden's dragon is Scale, right? Scale, the one that we were talking about in the beginning. So Scale is Zayden's dragon.
She's a blue dagger tail. I think that was what it was.
And apparently the blue ones are the most
vicious.
Yeah,
blue dagger tail.
And Scale is the most vicious of them all. So the blue ones are already top tier dragons.
But we also find out that there's another one.
Yeah.
But let me
go ahead.
We'll get to that. So I feel like we keep on getting sidetracked because there's so much to talk about. There's just so much story building. I love it. Yes. World building. I love it so much. But Satan, we know, enemies to lovers.
Yeah.
And something is gonna come between them. But I do feel like his dragon knows something, and maybe that's why he's keeping her alive. Because screw the whole, like, she's keeping a secret that they're meeting up, like, all the marked ones
and to, like, help each other. He's keeping her alive because of that.
Yeah, I don't think that's the reason. There's something more. But we won't find out until later on. So there is some sort of love triangle, but oh man,
I just think
I think this one would probably be done right. I hate love triangles, but we'll see.
right now, like from the beginning, I don't like Dane whatsoever.
Oh no, he's pissing me off too.
But like from the start, and I was like, yeah, no. Like I knew something was going to happen with Zayden as soon as her sister warned her of him. It's like, stay away from that guy.
Mm-hmm.
And just knowing, like, from that sentence, I was like, she's not going to stay away from him. If anything, she's going to get super close to him.
Yep.
And then from their fight, she was also like, no, you don't like toxic men. Don't do this. Like, thinking up to herself. I love
that so much. She's like, no, you do not like toxic men.
So like, that's where, like, the comparison you were doing earlier is, like, there's Dane, the overprotective, sensitive one, old friend, childhood friend, whatever. And then there's Zayden, who is I guess, she's calling it toxic, but it's just because he is technically the bad guy right now, right?
Yeah.
I don't think it's toxic. It's just he has it.
But you know what? He's so helpful.
That's what
I like about him, because you have Dane, who does not trust Violet to get through this, or doesn't think that she'll get through this, and then you have Zayden, who's providing her with some tips. Which, by the way, when he told Violet to use the daggers on Jack Barlow, she did. Like the very next day or so, when they were like
and
sparring,
and
it scared him.
It worked. And Dane was like, don't like, go near him at all.
Yeah, it's like, why would you like tempt him with that? Yeah. She's like, I don't know. But she used it, and I think that might help her out. So I think Zayden, one, he says that he's gonna handle Violet. Like, if Violet's gonna die, it's gonna be at the hands of Zayden. That's essentially what he's saying.
Yeah.
However, he's keeping her alive for now, and he's providing her with some good tips. I feel like he even is giving her more confidence into what she can do. It's like, she told her to do that with Jack Barlow when they were sparring. She told her, literally, this is your weak spot.
Yeah.
And even though he's showing her weak spot, that's for her to keep in her mind to do better next time. I
feel like there's two ways one could look at this, and at this point where we are in the book, you could still look at this in both ways.
Oh yeah.
Now we both know what is most likely going to happen, right? Just because of I think it's going to be your basic enemies to lovers like trope there, right?
Yeah, the most common one, but it's a good one.
I think so. Right now, you could say, yeah, he's toying with her. He's going to end up killing her anyway, or trying to kill her. But then learned that maybe she appeared too weak. She was like, if I'm going to end up killing her, it needs to, like, he's the type to want a respectful fight.
True.
Like, he's the type to, like, oh, she's too weak, but I'm going to handle her. I'm going to train her to be the best possible fight I could have. Because otherwise it'd just be a waste of my time. I could kill her now if I wanted to.
Like you said at the beginning, like, why bother? The parapet's gonna get you.
Exactly.
And not even just that too. When they were fighting, Zayden also, he knows what she's doing. Like, she thought she was slick, and she has been slick so far with winning those 5 challenges by just, like, you know, poisoning. And it's not necessarily poisoning. She's just making her other opponent ill, essentially.
She's drugging.
Yeah.
She's drugging the other 5. Yeah.
Yeah. And Zayden's like, Zayden knows and pretty much makes it known to her. It's like, yeah, you're doing this, but you're not really helping yourself, because you're not actually getting a fight where you're learning. Which is true. Which is also true. But it's like, she's smart and using that tactic, but she also needs to gain the experience of fighting to get better. But if you know that you're not that experienced, that's why you rely on another form of getting you by. It's essentially, for her, it's just to survive the next week.
Yeah.
Or to survive the next day even. So.
But I also like, I wanted to talk about that too. I like the fact that she got her brother's journal to learn how to survive through that.
I cried a little bit when I read that part. I was like,
I also liked, like, in that part where they showed that the different types of handwriting in the book. She wrote it as if the note was on the page, right? And it was really cool. But back to what I was getting to, I like the fact that she got that, not because it was her brother's whatever, right? Like, that's cool sob story as well. But the reason I liked it is because it reminds me of both Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, and then also How to Train Your Dragon. It's like in Harry Potter, he got the Half-Blood Prince. He got
notebook.
He got the Half-Blood Prince's
Notes.
notes, yeah, and that's how he excelled in the class, by having other steps like that. How to Train Your Dragon, he got the Dragon Codex. He learned all of like the dragon's weaknesses and stuff like that, and from training with Toothless, he learned different things of how to control like the dragons, and he got through the trials by different ways, not by the traditional you got to kill the dragon type of way, right? So it was reminding me of that. I'm like, this is really cool. She got this little notebook that's showing her how to get through this without having to kill anybody, without having to do much, essentially, right?
Right.
But at the same time, I was also thinking, this isn't going to get you ready for anything. And then that gets said in the book, and I'm like, see, like, this is like, you're getting by, sure, but how is that going to help at the presentation for graduation?
And mind you, she is still learning how to fight, because essentially her and Rhiannon, they make like a pact. I think someone else, I think it was Sawyer, I believe so. Essentially, they told Violet that they would teach her how to like practice fighting with her. Yeah. If Violet helps them get by through history or battle brief, essentially. Yeah. And so that's what they do. So she's learning, but I wonder how else she's going to learn differently too.
No, yeah. And by the way that this is going, there's going to be so many more things that she's going to learn. I feel like, I mean, we still have a lot of it left.
So much.
I think eventually, it's going to kind of like fast forward a bit, and she's going to be to the point where she knows how to do all these things, right? Yeah.
She's a quick learner. Yeah. And she's very smart. And like one of her professors told her, she's like, I taught your sister, I taught your brother. She's like, you have what both of them have, if not more. Like, you can outshine almost. How did she say it? But she essentially said that she sees so much potential in her.
Yeah, she was like, your brother was, I forgot the exact words, but she's like, your brother was strong, your sister was, I don't know, she used another word, and then he's like, but you are stronger than both of them. And it's like, strength doesn't come just in like physical strength. And he's like, you're also more compassionate than them both. And I feel like that is like kind of like foreshadowing what may happen later, how she bonds with the dragon. Like,
speaking of bonding, okay. Yeah. I have a theory.
Me too.
Interesting. Okay.
As to what dragon she's gonna bond with? Yes. Okay. Wait, did we say the dragon that we think?
3, 2, 1.
The black dragon.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Okay. So we learned in this chapter, I didn't really mention in the recap because it's something that we can just talk about afterwards. But essentially, in the chapter, we find out that there's a black dragon who used to be bonded with a rider, but that rider died. Yep.
And that dragon has not wanted to bond with anybody ever since.
And it's not common, or it doesn't really happen to where a dragon will bond with another human.
Well, at the moment, there's only 2 black dragons as well. So we have to remember that. And they also mentioned one hasn't been born in a century. Yes. So, so there's the 2 black dragons, and one's already in service with a professor. Yes. So one's already bonded to one. So there's one left, but that one doesn't want to bond with anybody else. They mentioned that, and that's where it was like,
Yeah, exactly. Because it used to be, like I said, it used to be bonded with someone else, but they died. And here's the thing. I believe it was said that if a dragon dies, the rider also dies, right?
I think that's what they're trying to insinuate, but they said it as a rider without its dragon is dead, right? But I think, a dragon without its rider is a tragedy, but a rider without its dragon is dead. Okay. So I think I don't know if they're insinuating that, oh, as soon as the dragon dies, they die, or they're like, as soon as the dragon dies, the whole point of a dragon rider is to have a dragon. So they basically
True.
are out of like resources.
Interesting.
They're going to die,
Yeah.
basically. So I don't know. At the moment, I think maybe it just depends on the bond you have. Like the stronger the bond,
True.
the more you're attached to the dragon. If the dragon dies, you're also hurt. I'm not sure.
And that's why I think, because I'm pretty sure in the book they also mentioned that once a dragon has, like, the original writer has died, they don't really tend to bond with someone else. They don't really care for that. But I have a feeling this dragon is gonna want to bond with Violet.
Yeah. And I think that's why they haven't spoken about that writer that passed away yet. Because I'm assuming we're going to learn about them later, or Violet's going to do some research and find who that was. And I think it's going to be someone very close to like her
we found out
personality.
Oh, true. I was going to say, have we found out who Brennan's dragon was?
No, but we did learn that somebody died because they were trying to resuscitate him. But it also could be very well. And actually, you know what? That makes a lot of sense, because they also did mention dragons do not typically bond with a family member of their old rider. And because they were talking about Xaden and Scale. Scale used to be, I forgot who from Xaden's family, but Scale used to be somebody else's within Xaden's family. Then they passed away or they retired. I don't know. I forgot. But Xaden is now bonded with that dragon. And that is like a rare occasion. The dragon will not bond with a family member ever, right? Because it's like, oh, that one person from that bloodline, that's it. So I think they mentioned that on purpose as well, to show, one, how strong Xaden is. But two, because I think, now that we're talking about it out loud, is like Brennan could be the past rider of the Black Dragon. And so now we know Violet is strong, not physical wise. She's super strong inside. And I feel like the dragon is going to realize, hey, you're kind of close to Brennan, and you're also super strong. Yeah. So I think that's what's going to happen.
I want you.
Yeah.
This Black Dragon could also very well be toothless.
Yeah. No, and then that's what I pictured it as soon as I mentioned it. It's like, this is straight up like How to Train Your Dragon if it was like not like a
kid's story.
Not even a kid's story, because I mean, if it is a kid's story, then I like kid's stories. But
you do.
If it's like if it were a Game of Thrones type of vibe, like if it like live action adult.
And this is very much it's so brutal.
It is.
This
yeah, and I know we're probably gonna talk about it later, but the way they described how Aurelie died, I was like, yo, I pictured that perfectly. And that's what I'm looking for in a book. Like, I am hooked on this because I can imagine it as a movie in my head.
It's so good. I'm enjoying this so much. I'm enjoying the action scenes. Like this.
Yes.
This is so good.
And we're only 10 chapters in.
This fantasy book is so good, huh?
We're only 10 chapters in.
Yeah, we're only 10
and
chapters
this is so good.
I'm so stoked.
Yeah.
Like, I cannot wait to read the next little bit of chapters because, oof.
Yeah.
I'm stoked. What was it? I lost my train of thought. It had to happen.
We're talking about the Black Dragon. There's only two. They were in the class. They talked about the Black Dragon. Yeah, I don't know how else to help you here.
Me losing my train of thought had to happen at least once. I don't think I'm gonna regain it again, but the descriptions in this book are so good. The action, as we already said, has been described so nice, and the fight scenes I'm enjoying so much. It has a nice pace. Yeah. So far, the pacing of this book is so. Nice.
It feels like a movie that's gonna be like a 3-hour movie. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't make you feel like you're watching a 3-hour movie. Right. Like it's super long, but it's taking the time to build up everything in the right pace, like you said. Like it's not rushing anything, but it's also not super slow to the point where it's gonna be like, oh, I still have 2 hours of this. Like, you know, it's like, okay, I'm getting more of the story. Let's keep going.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
it's stuff like that. So I think it's super cool.
I've also enjoyed how at the very beginning of every chapter there's a little quote, and it's not always a quote, but it's like something that a general has mentioned in the past. Which, by the way, speaking of quotes, I wanted to just share my favorite one so far, or my favorite line of the book so far.
Yeah.
So in the first, yeah, this is in the first chapter. But Myra is talking with Violet about like how to prepare herself, and this is just my favorite.
Yeah.
Because Violet is stalling to go up those stairs to sign up for the writers quadrant, and Myra responds, the longer you wait on those steps, she motions towards the tower, the greater your fear has a chance to grow. Cross the parapet before the terror owns you. I was like, ooh, that was a mic drop moment. I as soon as I saw that, I highlighted it immediately, and I was like, yes, I really like this.
Yeah.
It was like, ooh, I'm like, ooh, this is a good setup for the rest of the story. I like it. I really like Myra.
Because it's pretty much basically telling you that that's what's going to happen in the story, right? She has to, Violet has to own I guess the terror, the fear that she has of dying.
And so far, she's owning it. Like,
Yeah.
she is taking every challenge. And that's what pisses me off so much from Dane is like, I get that you're trying to protect her and get her to the scribe quadrant, but she's trying her best and she's trying to make it through every challenge.
I think that's where she's losing the hope. The fact that someone that knows her so well is losing faith in her. And she's like, Dan, maybe I am not cut out for this because someone so close to her is seeing her that way.
Yeah.
And then there's Xaden, who's like, I want to kill you, but I respect you, and you're gonna give me a good fight. You're gonna learn the ways here, and then we'll see. And I feel like at the end, he's probably gonna gain the most like respect out of all of them because of how much he's gonna learn. And he's like, all right, I guess you're good.
I'm excited to see where this goes.
Yeah, there's literally no way of telling because this could end up very well being just straight up like we don't think like he's literally just training her to fight her and then kill her, or you know, something like that. Like, or it could go the complete opposite.
It could be enemies to lovers.
Yeah, like it could literally go anyway.
That's why I kind of hope it's more of the enemies to lovers situation because Dane, my dude, thanks for trying to protect her, but at the same time, have more faith in your girl. She's trying to do her best. I know you don't want to see a friend die, but she's doing the best out here.
But if you don't want to do that, then you're in the wrong field at that point.
Yep, exactly.
It's like you're like, I know you've seen death before, but it's like she's already there and she wants to do it. Let her do it.
What do we think is going to happen in the next few chapters?
I don't even know. I don't know where they could go from here. Like, do you think we're going to get to the gauntlet in the next chapters?
I think so. Because there's still the war that's happening. And here's the thing, compared to the last book we read, I feel like so much is going to happen in this book. You know how in the last book there was a war and there was nothing really talked about?
Yeah.
In this one, I think we're getting everything addressed in this book and I'm stoked. But I know this is not just the first book because I know there's a second one, which I'm sorry, I'm going to say it. I haven't really heard really good things about the Iron Flame.
You haven't?
I haven't heard good things.
Uh-oh.
I heard that it was rushed. So I'm going to savor this book as much as I can.
Yeah.
I'll probably, depending on how this ends, I'm probably still going to read it just to kind of see it for my own eyes. However, going back, I feel like this book is good with the story building and the world building, that we're going to get all the information that we need. I do think we're going to get closer to the gauntlet. I think we're going to get closer to the graduation, and or maybe graduation might be towards the end. I don't know. But I do think we're probably going to get closer to Violet getting chosen, or a dragon choosing Violet.
I don't know if that's going to happen. I don't know if it's going to happen in the next few chapters.
Oh, you don't think so?
I think the next few chapters are going to be, I don't know what else, but I want to see the research done in those next few chapters. As in, like, she's going to start researching the dragons more. And we're going to find out.
She knows a lot about them, though.
Yeah.
I mean, she's hella smart.
But I think we're going to be getting closer to the bond, like you said, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like by that, like, we need to learn more about that black dragon. I'm pretty sure I don't know if that's going to be now or later, but I wish it were now. Her taking the time, knowing that she's going to be that close to graduation, knowing that it's going to be that close to the bond. She's like, what dragon am I going to do? Like, that's what they keep bringing up, too. They're
not
like,
all of here's the thing. There's so many cadets, but not a lot of dragons. We're finding out that every year there are fewer and fewer dragons willing to bond to these cadets.
and I have a theory. They keep bringing up the fact that there's some people that get left without a dragon and they have to repeat the year. I don't think she's going to bond with a dragon at the end. I like from the ones that are there, and that's where the black dragon comes in. I don't think she's going to bond with a dragon that's around. They already said the black dragon doesn't want to bond, so it's not going to be one of the dragons there, right? So she's going to attempt for a dragon there. None of them are going to want to bond with her. And she doesn't bond with a dragon. And there she goes thinking, oh, I'm going to have to repeat the year or die. But we're going to get into the war or whatever. The black dragon is going to be present for some reason. And that's where she bonds.
And that's what I was going to say. I do think I don't know if this will happen prior to the bond moment. But I feel because they have been dropping hints, and Violet mentioned this when they were at the battle brief. They said that usually they only enlist third years to go to war.
Yeah.
But she has a funny feeling that third years are not the only ones who are going to be enlisted to go to war.
I think it's going to be a giant war. And so they're like, all hands on deck.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I have a feeling there's going to be a situation where she is going to be near the black dragon and they're going to form a bond.
Yeah.
It's going to happen not the natural way. It's just going to happen just because that's what the situation like brought them to.
Yeah.
And the dragon just decided, like, you know what, you're cool. I'm with you, and you're with me.
It's kind of like in How to Train Your Dragon. It's like Hiccup. Like Violet reminds me a lot of Hiccup.
He's frail and small.
Frail, small.
Smart.
Doesn't think he can do it, but he ends up being smart about it. Something may happen in that way. Like obviously here in How to Train Your Dragon, he shot Toothless, right? He shot Toothless down, but then freed him. And that's where Toothless was like, all right, you're cool. Something similar is going to happen like that. I don't think she's, obviously not going to hunt the dragon, but she's going to save the dragon maybe from something, or I don't know. It's something like that is going to happen where the dragon is going to be like,
I do feel like there's a bond moment that's going to happen because of an attack, but I'm not sure quite what, but I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so stoked.
Yeah. I also wanted to mention from earlier, I had this open, but all the quotes that we were talking about that are at the top of the chapter, I don't know if you caught that from this too, but this like book is supposed to be a thing that's transcribed. So it's what do they call it? It's a text. So I think this is kind of like, it's supposed to be like a codex type of thing, right? And so every quote that's like on top of the chapters is something that has been transcribed from different people. And I think that's pretty cool because it's like we're essentially have a piece of like, I guess, history, right, in our hands that was transcribed for someone else to read. And then in other pages, we have little quotes from Brennan's journal in there. Like we had that one in I think it was the last chapter.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, it's including texts from that was supposed to be in quote unquote their language, right? In Navarian. And I think that's really cool because you can see it where it's like straight from there. It's like the author spoke that language and was like, hey, I'm going to translate this so y'all can read it. And it's like super cool.
It built like even like you're saying, even the book itself, how that was crafted is so neat.
Yeah.
So thoughtful.
Mm-hmm.
I guess we'll continue to figure out within the next couple of weeks.
Yeah.
But next week, we'll be reading chapters 11 through 22. And I'm hoping we get more action, more information. I'm so stoked. I'm excited. I really like the book so far.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see where this goes.
Same.
I think any romance in this will be a little bit of a slow burn. Maybe. Like, if we have any sort of intimacy, I don't think we're going to get to that until, like, maybe anything after, like, chapter 25 or so, I think. This is my suspicions. Maybe.
I think we're probably going to get, like, 2 sex scenes, though. She's going to have one with each.
Oh, you think so?
Dane and Xaden. And that's where I'm like,
interesting. I don't know. Maybe. I mean, we do know that they say us this way. They're like, they don't stop their temptations. Like I said, if they want to have sex, they're gonna have sex, only because they don't know if they're gonna live to see the next day.
Yeah.
So they're just gonna do it.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll find that out. But that was it for this week.
Yeah.
We'll see you all next time.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.